Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're peeling back the layers on a topic with just profound real-world consequences. It touches every community, carries life or death implications.
Absolutely.
We're diving into an article called Police Training Gaps Carry Deadly and Legal Consequences. It's from Valortech, dated August 20th, 2025. And look, this piece makes a really urgent, almost undeniable argument about modern law enforcement training.
That's right. And our mission today is to really extract the critical insights here. We're going to explore why modern reality-based training isn't just, a tactical nice-to-have anymore.
Right.
It's become a fundamental necessity, legally, ethically, for agencies across the country. What's really striking is how it just directly challenges so many traditional, kind of ingrained assumptions about what good enough training looks like.
Yeah, and it doesn't pull any punches. The core assertion right out of the gate is that agencies not investing in this modern application-based tactical training, while they're, quote, legally vulnerable, morally negligent, and operationally obsolete.
Wow, that's strong stuff.
It is a powerful statement, and we're going to unpack exactly what that means and, what it demands from leadership.
Okay.
So, having laid out those stakes, the article dives right into this concept it calls tactical negligence. How does it build that case that ignorance just isn't defensible anymore?
Well, it grounds it in data, which is crucial.
Yeah.
It points to national databases, DOJ reports, Leo case stats. That's the FBI's data on officers killed and assaulted.
Right, the Leo K data.
Yeah, and it paints a pretty grim picture of the actual threats officers face. These aren't just stories. It's a brutal, detailed picture. Like, for instance, the data clearly shows low-light encounters. They're not the exception anymore. They're the overwhelming norm. That's a huge shift, and it directly impacts how you have to design training.
That's a critical point. It really shifts the focus from, just checking a box to actual real-world capability. And it's not just about when or where is it. The article highlights vehicle-based shootings.
Oh, yeah.
They happen in nearly half of all fatal officer engagements. Just think about that, almost 50%.
That's staggering.
That's a massive chunk of critical incidents that needs specific, realistic training, not just, an annual trip to the range.
And zooming out from that, the article really emphasizes that decision-making under stress, not just can you hit a target that's the key determinant. For survival, yes, but also for the legal justification of your actions later.
Ah, the legal side again.
Exactly. It
That-
really suggests it's a department-wide failure if they aren't consistently training for these specific documented realities, like quarterly, maybe even monthly. The data's out there, ignoring it. That's just inviting disaster.
Okay, so it lays out the operational reality, the data, but then it pivots. It's fascinating how the article looks at the courtroom. What does it say about how courts are scrutinizing training now? Because it suggests what a department thinks is enough might be totally inadequate legally.
Yeah, this is where, the rubber really meets the road. When an officer uses their weapon, especially in low light or around a vehicle, a courtroom isn't just going to ask, did they pass their annual call?
Oh, it's a baseline.
It's a baseline, exactly, but it's utterly insufficient for today's legal environment. Instead, the questions are going to be way more penetrating. They'll demand to know what practical low-light scenario training did this officer actually get?
Specifics.
Very specific. Was that training done under realistic conditions, maybe involving, simulated photonic barriers, those visual distortions from intense light? And crucially, was the officer exposed to vehicle-based stress drills? Did they practice decision-making under duress?
And the article argues, doesn't it, that if the agency's answer is basically, oh, well, we follow the state minimums, that's like admitting you only aimed for the floor.
Precisely. It's not preparing for the actual fight. And the article argues that leaves agencies incredibly vulnerable. Prosecutors, civil attorneys, they can easily argue the department knew the minimums weren't enough for the real risks officers face.
So doing the minimum becomes negligence.
Effectively, yes. They knew better, or should have known better, based on the data, but didn't do more. It's not a defense. The article frames it as basically a concession of liability.
Wow. Okay, so to really drive this home, the article brings up some case studies, right? Real-world consequences.
It does, and they're sobering. Take the city of Ferguson, Missouri, a $1.5 million payout. This was an incident during a night traffic stop, poor lighting, no specific threat ID training for those conditions.
And what happened?
Missed round hit an uninvolved civilian. And then the training audit came out. It revealed zero low-light engagement training in the previous 24 months.
Zero. That's damn.
It's a direct line. Training gap, bad outcome, huge payout, and it's not alone.
You mentioned Phoenix, too.
Phoenix, Arizona. $2.3 million civil settlement. An officer involved in a vehicle ambush. They misused cover, didn't understand vehicle geometry.
How the car itself offers protection or doesn't.
Exactly. And rounds went through a windshield at a bad angle, hitting another officer. The problem? Their training was all square-range marksmanship, basic stuff, not 3D, dynamic tactics needed for complex environments like a car fight.
It's not realistic.
Not at all. And then there's Charlotte, North Carolina. An officer indicted. Body cam showed poor threat assessment under stress. The suspect, holding a flashlight, not a gun.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the officer's testimony just collapsed under expert analysis.
God.
Poor threat discrimination training. And get this, the agency hadn't done force-on-force judgment training, scenarios with live role players in 3 years.
3 years.
3 years. The article warns these aren't just isolated horror stories. They are becoming the norm, which just underscores how urgently agencies need to change course.
Okay, so the article doesn't just point out the problems. It talks about how departments get it wrong before anything happens. What's this about stop blaming the manual?
Yeah, that's a really key distinction the article makes. It clarifies state training mandates are legal minimums. They're not, absolutely not, training blueprints or tactical standards.
Just the bare minimum required by law.
Exactly, a regulatory baseline, not a plan for winning a real fight. It even uses the FDACS Firearms Training Manual in Florida as an example. That manual itself has a disclaimer saying you need supplemental environment-specific training.
So even the minimum standards admit they aren't enough on their own.
Right, it's like a warning label built right in.
Yeah.
So the article argues if a department builds its entire training plan just around hitting those minimums.
They're basically designing failure into the system.
That's exactly how the article puts it. Sticking to the letter of the law, but ignoring the spirit of survival. It's a recipe for disaster. And it pushes back hard against excuses like no budget or we just need compliance. Those excuses become incredibly costly down the line.
In dollars, or worse.
In dollars and careers and lives, exactly. The article says what agencies really need is legal survivability and tactical accountability. Which brings us to the solution it proposes.
Which it frames as non-negotiable,
Yeah,
right?
completely.
And that solution is bold. Reality-based training is no longer optional. It's legal armor. That's a powerful metaphor. Investing in this training is the best defense.
It is. The article then breaks this down into what it calls the 5 pillars of survival training. Really practical stuff.
Okay, let's hear them. What's pillar 1?
Pillar 1, low-light immersive drills. And this is way beyond just shooting in the dark. It means training with multiple light sources, ambient light, flashlights, strobes, even that red-blue light washout from emergency vehicles that can mess with your vision.
Right, the chaos of real light conditions.
Exactly. It includes simulated photonic barriers, poor visual contrast, and integrating MRDS, those mini red dot sights that are becoming common with neuroscience-validated threat-focused shooting, how the brain actually processes threats in low light.
That sounds incredibly detailed.
Yeah.
Very specific to those real-world challenges we talked about. Okay, pillar 2.
Pillar 2, vehicle-based engagements. Since nearly half of fatal encounters involve vehicles, this is critical. It covers shooting from inside and outside the car, understanding cover angles unique to vehicles, deflection risks off glass and metal, windshield ballistics.
Which are totally different from shooting in the open.
Totally different. Exiting under fire, returning fire in that confined space, even passenger side tactics.
Yeah.
Mastering that whole chaotic, dynamic environment.
Okay, that covers a lot of physical and tactical skills, but you mentioned the mental pressure earlier. How does the training address that? The psychological side, the decision-making?
Right, that leads directly into Pillar 3, stress inoculation and decision-making under duress. This means force-on-force scenarios, live role players, real pressure, time-compressed judgment drills, where you have fractions of a second to decide.
And justifying those decisions.
And practicing articulating the why behind your use of force decision under simulated adrenaline. It's about building resilience, clear thinking when everything's hitting the fan, so officers can act effectively and explain why afterwards.
So it's not just the action, but the cognitive process behind it under pressure. That sounds almost like treating officers like elite athletes.
That's a great way to put it, and it leads right into Pillar 4. Human performance integration. This does treat officers like athletes. Monitoring reaction time, shot accountability where every round goes, and why visual tracking under pressure. And scenario reviews focus on cognitive fatigue, that mental exhaustion that kills performance. Not just looking at hit rates on a target, it's about understanding and improving the officer's whole physiological and psychological response system.
That feels like a really crucial shift in thinking. Okay, we've covered some intense training methods, but how often do these need to happen? What's pillar 5? This sounds like maybe the toughest one for agencies.
It probably is the biggest logistical hurdle for many. Pillar 5 is quarterly, not annual training. The article is blunt. Reps fade, skills atrophy. An annual recall isn't skill maintenance. The article calls it a liability.
Because the skills are gone by month 3.
Pretty much. Quarterly training blocks built around realistic scenarios are presented as the new minimum standard, not a luxury. It's about constant reinforcement, truly embedding these critical skills so they're there when needed.
The article mentions Velortech itself, the publisher, as an example provider, emphasizing things like custom audits to find liability gaps, mobile training units.
Yeah, bringing the vehicle training right to the agency, integrating the MRDS and low-light stuff, and maybe most importantly, providing court-defensible documentation for all the training, building that resilience, tactically and legally.
Right, the legal armor aspect.
Exactly. And then stepping back, the article hits you with a final, really sobering point. Your next mistake will be televised. It really is. It highlights the impact of cameras everywhere. Body cams, phones, media, they scrutinize every action.
Yeah.
And the article asks the questions everyone watching will ask.
Yeah.
What did they see? Why did they shoot? And how were they trained to know the difference?
It really hammers home that inadequate training has nowhere left to hide, and the cost. The article argues the cost of this modern training is basically a rounding error compared to the alternative.
7-figure settlements, criminal charges, lost officers. It puts the cost of not training properly into stark perspective. It really boils down to that choice. Invest now or pay later in blood or settlements.
So let's try and wrap this up, this deep dive into the Velortech article. It's really illuminated that critical difference between just meeting legal minimums and actually preparing officers for the chaotic, high-stakes reality they face.
Yeah.
We've seen the severe consequences of sticking with outdated training for officers, agencies, communities, financially, legally, morally. And we've broken down what modern reality-based training actually involves, those 5 pillars.
Low-light immersion, vehicle combat, stress inoculation, human performance, and crucially, that quarterly frequency.
Right. And the article ends with that really provocative closing shot, doesn't it?
It does. This isn't just about better tactics. It's about better leadership. That hits hard. It's a direct challenge to leaders to rethink everything: budgets, philosophies, culture, moving from just compliance to genuine proactive preparedness.
Because every skill not taught is a potential liability.
A liability waiting to happen.
Yeah.
It forces leaders to confront their ultimate responsibility. So maybe the question to leave you, the listener, with is this. When the incident happens, when the bullets fly and the lawsuits land, the only thing that really matters is what you trained for. Given that, what does that truly imply about the responsibility of leadership today, and how prepared are we really for that next mistake that will be televised?
A profound thought indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into such a critical, timely subject. We really encourage you to keep exploring these crucial conversations. Demand better for everyone's safety. Until next time.